My name is John Raymond, and a little bit about me. I'm mostly self-taught. I am fascinated about what reality might mean. I try and make philosophical and scientific sense of this. I see myself as being an amateur physics researcher and theorist. In most of my research writings, I concentrate on subquantum, that is like faster than the speed of light type influence and effects, entanglement theory, which I'll describe to you a little later. I've been doing this for around 15 years. It is my retirement hobby. I enjoy sharing my hobby. This is especially so with laypersons such as myself. I'm very grateful that my friend and helper Morgan and my sister Rose have been assisting me along the way. I'm assuming that the majority of my viewers have only limited knowledge about physics. This is in relationship to its everyday micro and macro workings. This presentation merely skips across the surface of such workings. I have tried to make it as viewer-friendly as I possibly can. Thank you for joining me, and this is the prologue. Thank you for joining me to explore the cosmological mysteries of the wider world around us. In case you're not sure what cosmological means, it is the origins and development of the universe. In my talk today, I will introduce you to ideas in existing physics practice that you have probably never heard about before. When thinking about how best I might be able to meaningfully and reliably discuss these close to unfathomable matters with you, I have turned to the ideas and theories of the late physicist and philosopher David Bohm. David Bohm is my guru. Bohm remained highly respected in the international physics community. He died in 1992. My primary message to you at this time is to make you aware that such abstract type physical science and theories and science practice exists. Furthermore, physicists have mathematically tested and experimented with them. In many cases, this is with a great deal of success. The mysterious quantum entanglement theory is an example of this. Entanglement theory demonstrates that somehow or another, most things in the universe are connected and, in one way or another, are influencing each other. The degree of information I'm sharing with you today is both voluminous and complex. I feel that it's probably inevitable that you will only remember small parts of my message. In this sense, I urge you to focus upon the big picture meanings and points that I have raised, not the micro content. My presentation is being read from an edited version of my wider document that I wrote on the same subject a little time back. Introduction. As you can see, I'm introducing you to aspects of physics that I believe are well out of the ordinary. My words are about physics at a very deep level. This is the subquantum level, which is lower than that of the subatomic scale. At this low level, physics theories are mostly commonly seen as being metaphysical. It is for this reason that they are generally laughed at, about and derided. This is both within the physics community and the wider general public. I think that this is a shame. As I proceed with my message today, you might agree with my position in this area. I see metaphysical science information as relating to matters that have not yet been discovered or are likely to be forever unknowable. Examples of the latter include what were the cosmological conditions existing before the well-known Big Bang, which you probably know anyway, is the explosion that led to the creation of the universe, and what otherwise they might be when the expansion of the universe finally catches up with the speed of light. You probably never heard about that, but it has now been proven in physics. Do you think that clocks and similar time measuring devices at that period might still be important to us in such a without time reference frame? Is there another cosmological dimension that our universe might move into? What would be relative to such a new platform or a structure? Furthermore, under what measurable and observable circumstances would it be? Although the standard model of physics describes phenomena within its domain, it is still incomplete. It raises the question if it is only part of the bigger picture. This includes physics deep in the subatomic world, or in the dark, or the hidden recesses of the universe. The standard model does explain how building blocks of matter interact. I have discovered that some physicists, like Bohm, Hawley and Cahill, theorise that if the universe is conscious of its consciousness self, this would be a useful reference frame to answer some of these questions. They largely set aside various types of standard models of physics ideas. Within this process, I'm saying, like an ontological fundamental nature of existence, not concrete frame. This is not one that is temporal, that relates to logical and practical physical matters. This is a reference frame that might also help physicists to describe and understand universal reality. This is all that is. This is what I'm discussing with you today. As I implied, you will find that the information cited in this lecture rests almost exclusively upon Bohm's philosophical ideas. Towards the end of life, the Indian philosopher and orator Jiddu Krishnamurti heavily influenced Bohm's physics theories and experiments. I feel it's important that you know this. This is because I believe that this is a dominant reason why contemporary physics is having great difficulty in creating cosmological theory of everything. And I mean everything, all that is. In physics, this is called a grand uniting theory of anything, a gut. Bohm's primary theory relates to how he believes what multiple dimensional reality is. He developed a conclusive theory that he called the Holomovement. He sees his Holomovement as being a flow of reality information. This information is self-conscious. His similarly important overarching theory up to the Holomovement relates to what he has nominated as being an implicit order. This order is a field-like and attached zone to his cosmological consciousness model. This is a model that initiated the universal system and underlying processes related thereto. You will note how Bohm talks in an abstract manner about these physics-related matters. This entanglement field of information is without time. I guess that you may feel a little disbelieving and confused right now. This is not to be unexpected. I will further discuss this area of information a little later. My principal discussion is as follows. The principal thing that I find difficult in understanding in various quantum physics theories is that they rarely talk about the nature and underlying structure of reality. This is like Bohm's theory. This is information as it might be pertinent to the subquantum physics theory and experimental practice. This is like Bell in 1963, who demonstrated that entanglement theory is real, Bohm in the 1980s, whom I'm talking about today, and more recently Rupert Sheldrake, and other free-thinking and intelligent scientists like them. In other words, imaginative, creative people who are prepared to think through the deep issues. Within these models and processes, I'm also curious to try and understand how it is that tiny particles of space matter are not only conscious of themselves, but also each other. This is any given time or location. This includes what they might be doing in relationship to each other. This is in relationship to physics quantum entanglement and all-encompassing field theory. Furthermore, how can they influence each other across the width of the universe in an instant? Doesn't that sound unbelievable? Most physicists accept that such a theory exists and works and can be proven by experiment. However, they have no idea how they work as they do, as you'll find Bohm modelling does this. To me, these types of phenomena are remarkable. This is because it seems to imply that the universe is not only conscious of itself, but is also a nature-given law unto itself. In my opinion, this also seems to suggest that it is cosmologically, and that means all it is, and I stress that point, and that is bigger than universal, intelligent. Because we are mostly made of particles, this also seems to me to indicate that universal consciousness and its associated intelligence are part and parcel of what we are and guides us to exist. This includes think and behave in the manner that we do. This includes the parts and processes and mechanisms that give us life and the desire to temporally and ontologically employ in our everyday lives. This is a meaningful manner to our lives, and I stress the word meaningful. In other words, the complete way we live. It also includes reproducing our species for the underlying instinctual reasons that we do. It is because of these universal mysteries I believe that when we come to think about reality, we need to consider all types of thoughts and theories from creative theorists and philosophers across all epochs. Naturally, they would include the great minds of deep thinkers such as Plato, Hypatia, Isaac Newton, Albert Einstein, Stephen Hawking, and today I am suggesting David Bohm. I will begin to illustrate why it might be feasible to suggest that our existence, including our consciousness and associated behaviour, can be predicted and described. This is by the means of subquantum physics theories. This is as it relates to and is predicted by quantum mechanics and associated entanglement physics theory. This includes by mathematical testing and by experiment. I have defined quantum mechanics and other similar related physics mechanisms in a later section. Returning back to Bohm's ideas, I think that my follow-on words might help you to better understand how I associate consciousness and behaviour. This is in respect to universal reality and all influences and effects relating thereto. Unlike Albert Einstein's relativity theories that link length, breadth and height and time to make it four-dimensional, Bohm's theory is about the dual concept of the Holomovement and the implicit order. David Bohm sees his Holomovement as being a dynamic, interconnected process. This means everything is always in a state of process. He sees time, space and movement as being the properties, and properties means relating to characteristics of a substance that has been measured and observed, melded into the Holomovement. This is an undivided wholeness, entity, event and action. It is a form of consciousness unto itself. The implicit order, entangled within the Holomovement, is a deeper underlying and interconnected level of reality. It is the source of the manifest observable universe. It is a hidden order that unites to create the reality that we experience. It is a deeper and more formal order of reality. Bohm's explicit order is not specifically discussed at this time. I see it as being mostly relevant for today's presentation. As I've indicated, if Bohm's described theory makes sense, this seems to me to imply that Bohm's Holomovement is consciously aware of all that's going on within itself. This is in respect to a hidden subquantum and meaningless plan. I stress the word plan. This is as well as its inherent self-processing meaning and purpose. In physics, this seems to mean that it is a universal continuum, like a platform, that unfolds and unfolds itself. This is with a self-given temporal, meaning rational, physics matters, and ontological rules of what we see as being the fundamental nature of existence. This is, as we might broadly believe and understand such rules to be. It could be said from this that consciousness, embedded in the implicit order, is singularly the centre point of the universal reality. In physics, singly means the single point where the universe was created. This is all it is. Question to consider. A question for you to consider. Does this also imply all things, energy and influences that were causal to the explosion of the Big Bang in another universal or dimension are the same as those we universally observe, measure and experience in our universe? I will now briefly talk about the double slit experiment in physics. I think that this animated video that I'm about to show you will help you to better context all theories and ideas discussed in my presentation today.
And here we are, the granddaddy of all quantum weirdness, the infamous double slit experiment. To understand this experiment, we first need to see how particles, or little balls of matter, act. If we randomly shoot a small object, say a marble, at the screen, we see a pattern on the back wall where they went through the slit and hit. Now, if we add a second slit, we would expect to see a second band duplicated to the right. Now, let's look at waves. The waves hit the slit and radiate out, striking the back wall with the most intensity directly in line with the slit. The line of brightness on the back screen shows that intensity. This is similar to the line the marbles make. But when we add the second slit, something different happens. If the top of one wave meets the bottom of another wave, they cancel each other out. So now there is an interference pattern on the back wall. Places where the two tops meet are the highest intensity, the bright lines, and where they cancel, there is nothing. So, when we throw things, that is, matter, through two slits, we get this, two bands of hits. And with waves, we get an interference pattern of many bands. Good so far. Now, let's go quantum. An electron is a tiny, tiny bit of matter, like a tiny marble. Let's fire a stream through one slit. It behaves just like the marble, a single band. So, if we shoot these tiny bits through two slits, we should get, like the marbles, two bands. What? An interference pattern. We fired electrons, tiny bits of matter through. But we get a pattern like waves, not like little marbles. How? How could pieces of matter create an interference pattern like a wave? It doesn't make sense. But physicists are clever. They thought, maybe those little balls are bouncing off each other and creating that pattern. So, they decide to shoot electrons through one at a time. There is no way they could interfere with each other. But after an hour of this, the same interference pattern is seen to emerge. The conclusion is inescapable. The single electron leaves as a particle, becomes a wave of potentials, goes through both slits, and interferes with itself to hit the wall like a particle. But mathematically, it's even stranger. It goes through both slits, and it goes through neither. And it goes through just one, and it goes through just the other. All of these possibilities are in superposition with each other. But physicists were completely baffled by this. So they decided to peek and see which slit it actually goes through. They put a measuring device by one slit to see which one it went through and let it fly. But the quantum world is far more mysterious than they could have imagined. When they observed, the electron went back to behaving like a little marble. It produced a pattern of two bands, not an interference pattern of many. The very act of measuring or observing which slit it went through meant it only went through one, not both. The electron decided to act differently, as though it was aware it was being watched. And it was here that physicists stepped forever into the strange, never world of quantum events. What is matter? Marbles or waves? And waves of what? And what does an observer have to do with any of this? The observer collapsed the wave function simply by observing.
From a physics perspective, the particular point that the video is describing is that the electron particle / wave discussed seems to be united or entangled somehow. Furthermore, the particles are randomly considering and talking to each other. Bohm would probably say that this is because the electrons concerned are in some sort of entangled condition with each other. This is a condition consistent with his theoretical concept of a dualistic Holomovement implicit order arrangement. I suggest that because we are principally made of particles, this phenomenon seems to provide reasonable evidence as to not only the essential nature of cosmological reality, but more importantly, the manner in which we think and subsequently behave in the manner that we do. I picked a relevance tool to help you to better understand my message. I've selected a tool that I believe might help you to more comprehensively consider my line of debate today. In physics, this tool is called the Planck line, sometimes called the Planck length. Amongst other things, the Planck line is a theoretical point in the universe, not reality, where all things in it can be observed and measured come to an end. I discussed this from a two-dimensional perspective. The following video describes this tool.
What is the smallest distance you can think of? If you're thinking of something like the width of an atom or electron, then you are way off the mark. There is a distance so unimaginably small that it makes distances comparable to an atom seem giant. This distance is referred to as the Planck length. The Planck length is roughly 1.616 times 10 to the negative 35th meters long. However, numbers to such an extreme value such as this are very difficult to comprehend, so let's put it into perspective. The approximate smallest distance an unaided human eye can observe is about 0.1 millimeters. This is about the width of a single human hair. Now, imagine expanding this distance to the size of the observable universe. How big would a Planck length be? Coincidentally, a Planck length would now be 0.1 millimeters long. In other words, the width of a human hair is just as close in size to the observable universe than it is to a Planck length. The question that arises here is, why is that the smallest distance? Why can't we take measurements that deal with half a Planck length or a quarter of a Planck length? Although this concept works out well in mathematics, in the real world, things are much trickier. At the Planck length, ordinary space and time cease to exist. There is possibly just nothing in between two individual Planck lengths. Time on this level just skips across Planck lengths, leaving nothing in between. Distances conceived as smaller than the Planck length inevitably boil down to the realm of quantum mechanics. Because quantum gravity dominates here, it becomes impossible to determine the difference between two locations less than a Planck length apart. Thank you for watching this episode. If you enjoyed it, please feel free to leave a like and subscribe for more awesome videos.
The important thing to remember is that on the side of the described line that can be observed and measured is matter, movement and time, whereas that which is not is otherwise. It is mysteriously subquantum information. In my ideas, I sometimes refer to them as being implicitly non-local and explicitly local. Non-local means none travelling faster than the speed of light, and local, that is under this. Amongst other things, I suggest this video visually demonstrates a point where both universal consciousness, not instinctual awareness, and our personal considered consciousness under whatever circumstances join to come to play in this process. This is into the nature-driven whole-of-life equation experience. This includes thought construction and the associated influences related thereto. As I've discussed, I argue that these influences, all emanating from experiential particles, might also influence us to behave in the manner that we do. Quantum mechanics describes and makes predictions. This includes influence and effects related thereto. It does not prove anything. It talks about what is probable, and the predictions of quantum mechanics have never been experimentally or experientially faltered. A particle is a basic unit of matter and energy. It is the elementary building block of matter and energy. It can be both do and change something. This includes within all life form entities. Energy, entangled with influence of some kind, is the ability of matter to do or change something. A particle can be a wave or a particle. Keep that in mind with what I've just been talking about. A wave, well, in either state they make their own decisions in order to make the choices that they do. Quantum entanglement is when two particles link together in a certain way, no matter how apart they are in space. Non-locality is mostly anything affecting anything faster than the speed of light. The act of observation changes an experiment. That may seem incredible to believe. This is where physics uncertainty principle emanates. This is via physics probability theory. I think that's important for you to understand that in relationship to what I was talking about with particles having their own minds. Contemporary physicists routinely employ hidden variables theory into the theoretical equation. This includes phenomena such as subquantum information. Hidden variables are a way for physicists to get around problems in relationship to things that are a bit mysterious, but they probably can be explained in other ways. This is not unusual. Albert Einstein's relativity theory of mathematics is different from that of quantum mechanics and the standard model of physics quantum theory. This is from a theory testing perspective relating to what I have discussed. The mystery of quantum mechanics embraces all subquantum phenomena. Now, the reason I put this matter into my discussion with you today is to give you a perspective that all these weird things that are happening and all are known about, and they can be mathematically described, but under different types of theories and procedures. I'll now present you with some selected quotes about David Bohm and his subquantum philosophical beliefs. Some of these I've talked a little about, and some of them I haven't. And I'll go back to the question of the Holomovement. Quote, "The Holomovement is a key concept in David Bohm's interpretation of quantum mechanics and for his overall worldview. It brings together the holistic principle of an undivided wholeness with the idea that everything is in a state of process or becoming, or what he calls the universal flux. For Bohm, wholeness is not a static oneness, but a dynamic wholeness and motion in which everything moves together in an interconnected process." And I think this is as I described to you earlier. Bohm's basic assumption is that elementary particles are actually systems of an extremely complicated internal structure, acting essentially as amplifiers of information contained in the quantum wave. This is a quantum particle wave, as entangled within his Holomovement. With these words in mind, this may help you to better context what I've been arguing a little earlier. Bohm believes that the hiddenness may be reflexive of a deeper dimension of reality. He maintains that space and time might actually be derived from an even deeper level of objective reality. This is the implicit order. From these adjunct quotes, he goes on to say or imply, his Holomovement folds and unfolds, and the universe unfolds unto itself. It describes an interactive nature of the undivided whole. Unfolding means that it is a metaphysical function of the meaning inherent in the Holomovement. This implies that the universe is inherently conscious and intelligent. It is the properties, and the properties are characteristic of a substance that can be observed or measured without changing the identity or of the substance of individual parts, rather than parts of the Holomovement itself. This means that it is the conditions of the describable metaphysical parts of the Holomovement, rather than the substance, the properties relating thereto. Meaning relates to the human experience. It is the essence of reality. In other words, everything has meaning. Meaning is also metaphysical. Meaning and consciousness are related to the science of evolution. They jointly create the context of understanding reality. All that is explicit and implicit, I say explicit and implicit, relates to the mind, consciousness and language. All things are instances of the whole and contribute to it. Each movement of consciousness has both explicit and implicit meaning and context. That is, as I say, explicit and implicit. All that is implicit is the background to reality. Matter and consciousness enfold the structure of the whole. Important adjunct information that might, and I think they do, relate to the above. Quantum theory contains objects and particles and packages of particles that can be in two places at once. They can move through barriers and share connections, no matter how far apart they are. A similar, widely respected physics theory, the Copenhagen interpretations, describes how particle physics behave at the atomic and subatomic level. They exist in all possible states and simultaneously, and that's a repetition of what I mentioned earlier in my discussion. This includes as waves, and that's important. Any act of observation forces particles to choose one state or another. The cited double slit experiment seems to demonstrate this point. I have certain views too. I believe that David Bohm's Holomovement is implicit without time awareness. Consciousness is personally explicit. It is with time related to any life form entity. Awareness is fundamental. Matter such as atoms arise from awareness. Reality is all information entangled within the reality awareness. All information can be sectionalized and somehow described. This is in relationship to its meaning. Information influences reality. Reality is without type, limit, time, place, or circumstance. Information can be secularized into blobs, patterns, systems, and properties. This is like a reality neural network. This includes as they relate to all life forms. Ideas and decisions that we make and subsequently behave in relationship thereto are entangled in the implicit and explicit information contained within them. This includes the circumstances related thereto. Implicit information is ontologically instinctual. Explicit information is that which is temporal, considered to be, for whatever reason, rationally logical. Words are considered as they are explicit. Thoughts are not. They are implicit. Thoughts are instinctual. They are simultaneously related to the wider reality of the human experience. I think these types of ideas that I've shared with you, these are my ideas, are akin to what David Bohm is suggesting in his modelling. Like Bohm, my concepts and ideas are also heavily influenced by philosophy. I will begin to close by presenting you with this video. I believe that the underlying message in it broadly supports a number of the points that I've brought forward today.
It was a night, and we were walking under the stars, the black sky. And he looked up to the stars and he said, ordinarily, when we look to the sky and look to the stars, we think of stars as objects far out and vast spaces between them. He said, there's another way we can look at it. We can look at the vacuum, at the emptiness, instead as a plenum, as infinitely full rather than infinitely empty. And that the material objects themselves are like little bubbles, little vacancies in this vast sea. So David Bohm, in a sense, was using that view to have me look at the stars and to have a sense of the night sky all of a sudden in a different way, as one whole living organism, and these little bits that we call matter is sort of just little holes in it.
Essentially, two theories of physics had been around for some time, decades and decades. One was quantum theory, well established, quantum theory of Bohr and Heisenberg and Schrödinger. The other was Einstein's relativity. But despite decades of work, they never put the two theories together. And Bohm was thinking very deeply about that and said, okay, we don't need a new idea. We don't need a new theory. We don't need a new bit of mathematics, which everybody else was trying. What we need is a radically new order to physics.
There was a guy who turned up here whose name was David Bohm, who I'd never heard of before. Didn't even know what he was doing. But then when he started, I was absolutely transfixed. What he was saying was something that I wanted to find answers for when I was an undergraduate, and everybody refused to answer me.
David Bohm was one of the scientists who really showing interest about quantum physics. Nothing objectively exists. All they depend on observer.
The whole is contained in each of the parts, and the parts in the whole. And my feeling is that gave that insight to Bohm, that this world we live in, it's all hard and fast. The explicit order, this is the explicit order, is really just a surface order. It's not a deep, profound order, and there's something lies underneath it.
Bohm's theory shows how particles respond to a process of constant enfolding and unfolding, linking the underlying unseen world of the implicit order to the external world of the explicit order to quantum potential, in which the cosmos emerges out of the flux and transformation of an activity of information. In essence, Bohm's theory of the implicit order enfolding and unfolding into the explicit order is a journey through multiple realities into the mystery of actuality.
David Bohm was dealing with general ideas. He would be dealing with philosophical ideas. We would go into language. Is language limiting the way we can express these ideas? He would go into biology and say, look, this is the way biological systems develop. Nature is surely more organic. Perhaps we should move into that area and say that there is a more organic way of thinking about life in general. And then ultimately he became very fascinated with the role of consciousness in all of this. Where does consciousness come in? What is thought? What is thinking?
Making it respectable to ask these philosophical questions and to try and make an ontology of quantum mechanics which somehow hang together.
The work of people like Bohm, Einstein, they are like huge windows opening in the imagination to a way of dealing with life and the things we encounter within it freshly.
Being able to go beyond what they knew, being able to go beyond their framework, their context, in order to do something that had real depth.
That's the key. That's the deepest hidden level of reality, the gate of all wonders.
The reality, so far we know, is but still limitless. So David Bohm, I think really something like opener of our mind.
In closing, what I have mentioned or implied for you at this time is 1. Contemporary mainstream physics theories and practice seem to have a significant difficulty in creating and defining a structure. This is a structure that realistically relates to holistic cosmological reality. 2. The mysteries of reality can be implicit and explicitly explained. 3. There are sound reasons to believe that the universe is not only aware of itself, but also all things that are going on within it. 4. The building blocks of cosmological reality can be functionally described. 5. We are directly entangled with all happenings in the universe. 6. The relationship between cosmological and personal consciousness can be functionally explained and described. The dominant influence in the universe is experientially metaphysical. This is my opinion about what reality might be. This is that consciousness, awareness, might be the overarching umbrella of all it is. In closing, I say it's okay and to fantasize about such matters. Thank you for your time today.